Hello and welcome. This is the astrology forecast for January 2026. And so, Happy New Year. We're moving into 2026. And I think the first sort of quarter of the year, particularly, is going to be quite shocking, very transformative, and just a massive game changer with the whole eclipse season in February. But it really starts to build up by late January. But anyway, let's get to the astrology. We can have a look at a few of the key dates and the things which will be occurring just in January alone. So we start off January with Mercury first squaring Neptune, and this is right at the anaretic degree of Pisces, and Mercury being in Sagittarius at that time. So there is there's a sort of spiritual deepening. There's it's a little bit difficult, possibly for those who have like strong religious beliefs. Something might occur where it kind of questions that. For some, this could be kind of like chaotic, like when you have like an epiphany or an idea, or planning just sort of goes out the window. Everything seems to be sort of like flowing in all different directions. So yeah, there's it can be quite confusing as well with Neptune and Mercury in a square. So for the start, that 1st of January, there's this sense of sort of spiritual or religious confusion. And then it can be quite argumentative as well with it being a square as well. It can sometimes bring problems. Okay, so then Mercury moves into Capricorn, which is going to give more sort of clarity. It's more earthy, sort of about real world matters rather than the sort of depth and the woo-woo of Sagittarius. When it moves into Capricorn, it sort of grounds a bit more back to the reality of the real world, back to, like work and daily life and stuff like that. And also on the 2nd of January, Chiron stations direct. So rather than the sort of deep emotional wounds coming up from within, Chiron direct, it's about healing in the real world, outwardly, but it can also suggest that, that there's a bit of potential for injuries, so just, go carefully. And particularly like Mercury sometimes can relate to like transport and traffic and travel. So yeah, just go really carefully to avoid any bumps or scrapes in those first few, possibly first week of January, I would say. Just go careful. So by the 3rd of January, we get to the full moon, and it's going to be like a super full moon, and it's in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is where the moon is at home. It's very instinctive. It is raw. It feels its way because it's all about feelings and emotions. It's very kind of nurturing, motherly, comforting, and so there is a sense of nurture, but there's also a sense of having to take care of home and family. Something coming to a completion. There's a sense of feeling overprotective, potentially. Something happens where you feel very overprotective of home or family. This falls just after the new year and at a time where people will be returning back to their places of work. And so with the Sun and Mars and Venus and Mercury all in Capricorn opposing the full moon and Jupiter in Cancer. So this is very much got a focus on, the responsibility of life and taking action and making money and resources, the importance of like having money and resources and all that sort of responsible stuff is very much focused, but it feels a little bit at odds of, spending time with with the family and staying at home. Could be that we want to stay home more, we want to be with our family more, But that time over the holidays where we've had that time with the home and family over the holiday period has come to an end. So it's going to be quite an interesting full moon, especially with it being a super moon, especially with the like significant oppositions with all the inner planets, and then with the moon conjuncting Jupiter later in the evening. So it kind of it just expands on that feeling and the blessings and the wanting to be at home, issues around home possibly that need fixing or people need taken care of, and it just feels super busy. Okay, so then we get to this period of time between the 6th and the 10th of January. And this is really significant because we have Venus conjuncts the Sun. And so there's this cosy in Capricorn, around about 16 degrees. Then Venus conjuncts Mars, and now this is a significant thing because this happens once approximately every 2 years. However, it doesn't always usually involve the Sun being at the same degrees. That usually is a synodic cycle of around about 6.5 years. It tends to really amplify things in terms of what comes up over the coming, like 6 years or 2 years, particularly with the Venus and Mars cycle. If you consider Venus as the planet of the divine feminine, coming together with the divine masculine, there is a very, very important portal of manifestation, a window where what you think, what you want to create, what you, that energy of the masculine and the feminine comes together. It is creation in itself. So what do you want to create becomes really amplified at this time. In terms of love and relationships, in theory, it should be about action to take like loving steps towards a relationship or a better relationship, making a relationship better. What sometimes happens is there tends to be friction in relationships, particularly if they are not going well. If there's issues already, this heightens the friction and can actually cause separation, because Mars is a planet that can separate and Venus is about relationships. In theory, it should be about, attracting. It should make people more attractive, more, it should be about desires, taking action towards those desires. When the Sun meets with Venus and Mars at the same time, and it amplifies this energy, because the Sun in itself is this very creator energy, creative energy. It's about without the Sun there's no life on this planet. It's really important role that the Sun plays. So when you add that to like the vitality, the spark, the energy, it highlights this Venus and Mars manifestation portal and makes it bigger. But adding to that, this year we have Jupiter in opposition. And so from a geocentric, but looking from sort of space, you will see that there is Jupiter aligned with Earth, aligned with the Sun, aligned with Mars and Venus as well, Venus and Mars. And they'll all be in this perfect alignment. This is very significant, I'd say, because Jupiter expands, it creates more, it blesses things. It's considered a lucky planet, particularly when it's exalted in the sign of Cancer, where we've just had this like full moon. So to me, this is almost like amplifying manifestation. It's like speeding it up. It just seems like a very powerful moment between this time of the 6th and the 10th, but particularly around that 9th and the 10th, so the 8th, 9th, 10th very much will be very powerful. Okay, so then we get to the Sun and Mars and Venus and everything will be like opposing Jupiter. So this just suggests like between the 10th and the 14th, so just after this like manifestation window, there's just this very almost frantic, very busy period of time with Jupiter opposing Mercury. That's like a lot of communication, a lot of information coming through, a lot of, like data to sort through, a lot of issues possibly with planning. Mars opposing Jupiter, that can be about action. With Jupiter, it's like it tends to be like really going too fast or going like trying to do too much. It can cause burnout. So this suggests like this very highly, very busy period. So then we move into a next little phase of the month where, so on the 15th, Venus trines Uranus, and then Venus moves into Aquarius on the 17th. So between the 15th and the 17th, and the Sun also on the 17th will trine Uranus. So this to me suggests some real shocks around money, financial things, with it being the fact that it moves into Aquarius so quickly after, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. This suggests sort of like crypto or online banking or something to do, like I would say it's sort of online. If all the online banking went down, then obviously that would be issues around trade and even accessing money. So yeah, there's something significant. However, with the Sun trine to Uranus and Venus, I mean, this could be about a leader, some shocks around a leader or a leader taking action on something. But this could be financial, or it could be around, like Venus can also be females. It can be relationships. That with it being if it's a world leader, for example, relationships could be their personal relationships. However, it could be international relationships between two countries, the countries of, like the leaders' countries. So there's some big shocks. I also think this could be quite like stormy or earthquakes, seismic activity with Uranus. Venus can represent, with it moving into Aquarius, this can be to do with flights, airports, and that sort of thing as well. So it highlights a lot of issues around that time. So on the 18th, we have Mercury conjunct Mars. This makes conversations and communications, connections, very, very direct. It can come across as very abrupt and very sort of assertive. So if you're planning something and you're really wanting to take action on something, this is great. Around the 18th of January. However, if this is a conversation between two people, this could get quite aggressive, forceful, very, very assertive, direct, and a little bit heated, I would say. But yeah, definitely with it being in Capricorn, we've also on that day got this Capricorn new moon at 28 degrees of Capricorn on the 18th. With that Mercury conjunct Mars, this would suggest some sort of possibly even a breakdown in communications between companies or politically, or between countries. It feels quite argumentative around that new moon, so there could be a little bit of an issue beginning to show at that time. And Mercury will also trine Uranus at that around that time, sort of on the 19th, it goes exact. So Mercury trine Uranus, that brings a lot of internet-based information, planning, media coverage, media hype, but this can be very much about massive storms. This could bring an information or a warning about a big storm that's about to hit, particularly as Mars then trines Uranus the following day. So this could be, like a very significant issue with seismic activity. And then on the 20th also the Sun moves into Aquarius, Mercury moves into Aquarius, so then we have this whole change in the dynamic of the month from Capricorn into Aquarius season. Mercury and the Sun are conjunct in Aquarius, but they're also right on Pluto. So this is really going to highlight something. Some very key information is about to surface. Secrets could come out. It's likely to be very transformative. Pluto, the planet of the underworld. So this is bringing something up. This is bringing up what's been hidden. And it's informative. And this to me feels like it's with this new moon from the 18th. This feels to me that this is the moment where the eclipse season energy really starts to kick in, because the eclipse season in February. So this feels like this from this new moon onwards, we really get this real shake up in just something happening where there's information that is going to be quite shocking. There's going to be some transformation. There's going to be secrets revealed. There is going to be some sort of, media hype. Or it could all be very seismic and about the planet and the Earth itself. It's going to be quite transformative, whatever it is that comes out at that time. And it's big. From the 23rd, then we have Mars move into Aquarius as well. And then Neptune on the 26th of January. Neptune finally makes its full ingress into Aries. So Neptune only moves sign once every 14 years. It's been in Pisces since around about 2011, I think. It moved into Aries briefly last year, around about the summer months. So if we consider what was going on last summer, I think it was around about July time. So it was in Aries, I think, for about 3 months last year. It then moved back when it retrograded back into Pisces, and we've had this period of time where it's been in Pisces again. It's now going to finally move into Aries on the 26th of January, and it will stay there now for the next 14 years-ish. This is incredibly important because this can, it can kind of dissolve wars. We saw Donald Trump's attempt to kind of bring peace in the Middle East. Whatever his reason was behind it might have been a little bit deluded. But that, it was quite a good attempt, really. I don't think it's really stuck as much as he probably would have hoped. But it was an attempt. We also saw last summer that we had quite a dry, hot summer. I think there was quite a lot of fires and stuff like that. This can kind of, in some ways, Neptune can be quite poetic, quite illusionary. With Aries, this can be about warfare. It can bring things like conscription, where people are forced to go and fight for their country. It can bring things like a lot of overseas travel. It's it's an action based sign, but Neptune in itself is quite it doesn't really have boundaries, and it's a little bit illusionary, so things won't quite be as they seem. Okay, so then on the 27th, Mars is conjunct Pluto, and this really does seem to really step into that sort of eclipse energy that we're going to feel in February. So this last sort of week of January really is gonna there's something significant, there's something sparking from that, particularly from that new moon on the 18th as well. There's this whole spark around just information coming out. Mars can be about sex, and with Pluto that can be like a sex scandal thing. Mars can be about war. It can just be about action and things that are done, or it can be about a masculine person. But something is coming up that is going to really play its part in what's about to happen over the eclipse season. And then on the 29th of January, Mercury is conjunct Venus. Now, this can be really lovely. This could be, very complimentary. It can be just, having a nice little shopping spree online with it being in Aquarius. It has that kind of nicey, it's quite beneficial in a way. But I don't know. I think just with the fact we are getting into that eclipse season, there may be a little bit more tricky energy to it than we realise. But yeah, this is about financial planning, can be about budgeting, but yeah, it usually has this really nice feel-good factor, I guess, with Venus involved there. So yeah, overall, I think January is going to be, it's not really like a major month in many ways. However, it sets the wheels in motion. The first quarter of 2026 looks like it's going to be a bit of a shake-up, and this really sets that, like I say, the wheels in motion. It sets that tone for what is to come during February and March, and as we get into April, which brings the change.